Good evening. We'll get ready to start our meeting. We'll open with our flag salute tonight. Tate, all members of the board are present this evening. And do we have any agenda additions, deletions, revisions?
Chair Brumble, yes, I have a couple.
Okay.
Minor, under 4.12, if you can scratch out that action item and J Weeks and add underneath it 4.1 enrollment report. That's to be considered in the consent agenda. And then down in 8.0 toward the bottom, we can scratch that out of 8.2, the same enrollment report.
Madam Chair, could we add an item 7.1.2 around the superintendent search process and have some clarity around what's happening?
Okay, so I've notated those. Anyone else?
For 7.21 and 7.22, I'd like to see if we could have some more time around the wellness policy to look at that. And I'm as well concerned with the medication policies because of the ORs that are in there, the things that can be done without parental consent. I'd like to get some legal advice from Melinda on how to go forward with that. So I don't know if we can table all of those policies for a meeting.
So you are asking 721, 722, and 723? Cheyenne?
Yes.
So this would be removal.
The 7.1 and the 7.2, the ones with the possible action, National School Lunch Program. So the 7.2, 1.1, 7, or the 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, 1.4, I'm fine with, but also the 7.2.3, I'm not comfortable moving forward with that until we get some legal advice.
Okay. Okay. Do you understand that?
So you're asking to remove them from the agenda and just table them?
Yeah, I'd like to table those, especially the medication one, because of the ORs. They've already been adopted in the current policy that we have, but I am uncomfortable with the current policy that we have because of the lack of parental consent for the ORs, the 3 that are in there.
Madam Chair, how are we going to seek clarity and legal advice until we know the issues, which kind of means we have to discuss them?
So
We don't have
she
to act.
brought it up last month.
Right.
With the parental consent, which she wants to follow up now with legal to review. And so she wants further clarification from legal.
I don't have any problem with that, Madam Chairman, but I'm not sure removing them from the agenda makes until we can. I would like to have the discussion but not act on them.
Sure, I don't mind having a discussion. I just am not ready to vote on,
Sure, I don't have
on
any
that
problem
one
with
yet.
that.
And I think Anna made copies here for everybody with all the copies of the ORSs. on there so we can have a discussion on those.
7.2, and instead of possible action, just leave for discussion. I just need a motion.
Madam Chair, move to approve the agenda as amended. Thank you.
I second.
All those in favor of moving forward with the changes to our agenda, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. So we will move on to our special acknowledgements. Dr.
Tonight, I'd like to honor the Center Foundation. I'm reading from a letter here addressed from the Center Foundation to Crook County board members. It says, as members of the Board of Directors at the Center Foundation, for the continued collaboration between our organization and the Crook County School District. We believe that this partnership has hacked on the lives of students and their families throughout our community. For more than 20 years, the Center Foundation has been dedicated to enhancing the well-being of students in Central Oregon, providing sports medicine, educational program at no charge to local students or families. So some of the services that they've regularly been providing for us are sports medicine and athletic training services, education, the Train Your Brain program, and access to health care. There's also a number of other services they've been provided, but in this spirit of time, I want to say a special thank you to them, and we appreciate the many services that they have provided to our children and families. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Rob Bonner.
Thank you, Board. So the last time I was here with Coach Schinkel, I think it was, we're very proud of Coach Schinkel. This time, coming back, some kind of residual of that, I'll just read a little bit. Coach Sarah Schinkel, it is our honor and privilege, Coaches Association, National Federation of High School Sports, that you have been selected as the 22-23 Oregon Girls Golf Coach of the Year. So congratulations there. It goes on to say, you were specifically nominated by the OSAA as the most deserving for this honor. We're selected based upon their coaching performance last year in 22-23, lifetime community involvement, school involvement, and philosophy of with Coach Schinkel is not the fact that she's dedicated to athletes, but she's dedicated to the students of Crook County School District, grades, their performance in the classroom, outside of the classroom, and it's a family show with her husband and mother and father-in-law, and I mean, you name it. So that's why I'm proud of Crook County and the coaches that we put out and how they represent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Here's your plaque. Any questions? Get a top too.
Do you and your mom still coach girls golf?
Yeah, so I'm the head varsity coach, and then my mom is the JV, and then my husband is JV, and my dad is a volunteer JV, and then Zach Lampert, who's the pro at Meadow Lakes, he's the head boys varsity.
It is a family affair.
Yeah.
Okay. I knew your family was golfers.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you to obviously the school district, and then also Meadow for allowing, again, our girls to practice there, and being so supportive of Crook County and the golf team, kind of like whatever the Valley schools charge their golfers every single time for practice. For Reagan is great about giving high school golfers opportunities for free pretty much year round. So, yeah.
And do we host a tournament here, Sarah?
Yeah, we host usually 2 varsities a girls and a boys, and then 2 JVs, girls and boys.
Is that at Meadow Lakes?
We do it both at
Okay.
the country club and Meadow Lake. Thank you.
Sarah, how many girls do you have out? Do you have any coming up?
Yeah, I have everybody except for one, Mackenzie Jonas, who graduated, but everybody else is returning from the state team. So, and then I hope to have, I usually carry about 10 to 12 girls on my team overall, varsity, and we take the top 4 scores, and then the rest can go on JV. And so the boys have a lot more, but we're trying to grow girls golf. So, yeah.
I just want to say to you that your grandparents, Krofcheck, who were pillars of the athletic establishment community, would be awfully proud of you. Mathesons, who were pillars of being fans and cheerleaders of everything athletic in this community. So this award's a
Thank you.
I'm not on the agenda. I just wanted to give an update on the drama fundraiser that happened over the past month. So Mr. Dunaway texted me, but this is the one that Mrs. Edgerly brought up at the last board meeting. But it was hosted by the Human Dignity Advocates. It was organized by Mr. Great Silent Auction Items, including Cheyenne, who got us gift cards and Central Oregon Symphony tickets. Mr. Dunaway's drama students performed, and they brought the house down. I think there's some people in the crowd that were there. There was food, a 50-50 raffle, and all told, they made over $2,500 for the Shakespeare Festival. So I just wanted to say thanks for that, and it was grateful. So just wanted to bring that up. Thanks.
Great. Thanks, Jake. Okay. We'll move on to public comment follow-up. From last, we had a comment in regards to math standards, and Carrie Lowenbach is actually going to start a discussion within our math curriculum this evening in regards to the policy that was uploaded without a board vote. I haven't fully looked into yet. Have a response on that. And then Dr. Yucca has the remainder of the follow-up.
Yes, I just wanted to express support for this board and their keeping the option open to have the policy stay in place about visiting classrooms. I favor that, and I have appreciated the board's support in sharing that thought with me as well. Thank you.
Barbara, is it View?
Push. Okay. Okay. I've been to school board meetings here for several years, and I feel they're very important to attend. I was at the last no listening session last week, and it was briefly mentioned there that the board consider having 2 board meetings a month. Reason why is board meetings usually last 3+ hours. And the last half is usually focused on acknowledgments, or the first half is awards, sports, and honors. Those are all important, but by the time that we get to the agenda and focus on new school business, over half the audience has already left. Backs and bottoms are sore, especially when you sit on the bleachers for that long a time. And any pressing business that is ongoing isn't then brought up for another month. It's important to honor sports and other recognitions and acknowledgments and awards, so I suggest that one board meeting possibly focus on that area, and the next board meeting focus on school issues and new businesses. And if there are pressing issues that the public needs to be aware and update on, it can be brought up during both meetings. So just a thought. Thank you.
Thank you. Holly Haynes.
Good evening. I'm here to talk about the records request regarding the fake disciplinary policy, the classroom removal policy that was on your website. I'm going to go over on my time, and I would ask for your indulgence because this is pretty important. So Oregon law provides for suspensions and expulsions, kicking students out immediately if there are weapons or violence, and specific rules for kicking out students with disability. What Oregon law does not have is a provision for kicking out other students under other circumstances, and that's what this fake policy is about. Here, Jessica Ritter's family member did something bad to my family member related to the procedures in this fake policy, and that is relevant to my public comment tonight. Let's say a student finally stands up to a teacher who's been bullying that student and his classmate for several years because the administrator who was notified about the bullying chose not to do anything about it. And let's say the administrator imposed this fake to the student out of several classes with that teacher, not for the afternoon, not for 10 days, but permanently through graduation and without any replacement classes. Just go home during those hours, is what he was told. This procedure violated the student's right to due process. So I've spent the past 2 years pushing back against this procedure of kicking students out because it's not supported by Oregon law. When I pushed back, the student was threatened, intimidated, and slandered by district administrators. Other students, his classmates, were intimidated and threatened. I was advised I'd be arrested if I came to the high school. I'm here tonight, though. The former superintendent screamed at me during a board meeting right after I told the old board that I would do everything possible to ensure the district never did this to another student. So there apparently was a lot at stake for the district employees who were involved in this inappropriate disciplinary action. In September 2022, I asked the old board to audit disciplinary records to make sure no other students were denied due process because these so-called class removals are all secret and they aren't reported to ODE with the other disciplinary actions that kick students out of class, like suspensions and expulsions. The board ignored me. I asked again in October. They ignored me again. So I sent an email to the board chair, Jessica Ritter, but again, she ignored me. Instead, she responded with a comment about some mysterious policy committee. When I wrote back and asked specifically who is on this policy committee, she refused to respond. Given all that, and there's a lot more, the records request shows a flurry of emails and document revisions to this fake disciplinary policy in the days after the old school board lost the election. There were emails between Jessica Ritter and the OSBA, Jessica Ritter and Scott Cooper, Jessica Ritter to Heather Hickson to board members, Heather Hickson to CCHS administrators, and then there's this. An email from Scott Cooper to Jessica Ritter, Sarah Johnson, Joel Hoff, and Heather Hickson regarding this fake disciplinary policy. Quote, I don't know whether we're moving forward with this policy in June or if we're planning to kick this to the new board. If we move in June, it will have to be by unanimous vote or it can't be moved on first reading. There is a risk that if there's not agreement, this and that board's revisions may be significantly more than what I'm asking for. I guess it's up to you, Jessica, whether you want to put this on the June agenda or kick it to July. Either way, Heather, would you please include my proposed revisions with the original policy committee draft? The entire records request documentation appears to be serial communication using Heather Hickson as an intermediary, which may not have been illegal at the time, but was definitely unethical. District Policy BD-BDA states electronic communication among board members shall be limited to messages not involving deliberation, debates, decisions, making or gathering of information on which to deliberate, but that's exactly what these emails show. Policy BCE says the board shall have no standing committees and that committee recommendations and reports will become an official part of board minutes. The Secret Policy Committee is a standing committee, but without any official records at all. Policy BCF says that all meetings of advisory committees shall follow the public meeting laws and that the board must appoint members from a broadly represented group, and that's not happening. The Department of Justice bodies, and your email shows the Secret Policy Committee, made up of at least, I'm assuming, Patty Norris and Doug Smith, is a governing body. Quote, a body that has the authority to make recommendations on policy or administration is a governing body. And we know that governing bodies are required to comply with public records laws. So Mr. Cooper, your May 19th email shows that you are, in essence, instructing the Secret Policy Committee to agree on the specific language of this fake disciplinary policy and make sure everyone's on board so the already agreed upon fake disciplinary policy could be wrapped up in a neat little bow and brought forward to the old board's final meeting. So that definitely makes the Secret Policy Committee a governing body. It looks like someone wouldn't fall into line, which was why the fake policy was not presented to the board in the June meeting. And all of this appears to violate public meeting laws. So who uploaded this fake policy? Heather Hickson, who then emailed Dr. Yucca to claim this was just a mistake. Actually, the records request appears to show that this was a concerted effort done in secret school board to make sure everyone was in lockstep to get this policy passed before the new board took over. And why was that? No other districts in Oregon have a policy like this because it is so damaging. If the law already provides for suspensions and expulsions, why was the old board gunning for this policy? No one was publicly asking the old board for a policy like this. Was Jessica Ritter asking for it in an attempt to vindicate her family member, perhaps with the support of the old board? I think former chair Jessica Ritter should have recused herself from any work on this fake policy, but this records request shows she was right in the thick of it, directing it. In her email to the OSBA to get advice about this fake policy, for instance, an Oregon statute that was repealed in 1953, Mrs. Ritter then advised the rest of the board about the importance of that statute. What does not is the organization that sells us policies and handbooks and then tells us they don't guarantee their documents actually comply with the law. Heather Hickson's May 9th email to all 5 board members confirms they've been kicking out students all along and process each time. And this fake policy was on the district website since June as if it were real, so we're not sure how many students may have been kicked out inappropriately. So to the new board, the audit of disciplinary is more important than ever. After refusing my family member a restorative justice meeting, the former superintendent stated in a work session that the district was using restorative practices. Crook County appears to be trying really hard to be the only district in the state with a policy that kicks students out of class and violates their rights, but that's restorative. ORS 339-250, the duty of student to comply with rules, says, establishing and enforcing discipline, a district school board shall ensure that the policy is designed to protect students from harm, keep students in school and attending class, and calculate the number of school days that a student is removed from the classroom setting. The only reason to count days is to ensure you're compliant with state law and then to report those classroom exclusions. Kicking students out, giving it a new name, pretending it's not a suspension or an expulsion is exactly what the district has been doing, apparently with the blessing of the old board. Finally, when you file a TSPC complaint, state law requires that you first attempt to resolve things at the district level. I did that by filing 4 complaints here at the district who were involved with the improper disciplinary action I spoke about. Those 4 complaints were filed on 10th, 2023, which is 1 year after the 2022 graduation, so I did file them in time. I informed TSPC that dealing with these complaints. Sure enough, at its final board meeting in executive session, the former board closed all 4 complaints without any action and said I had not filed in time, which is clearly not. The old board was very afraid to have the new board hear these complaints, and that's because of who these complaints were about. For this reason, I'm asking the current board to void the former board's obviously incorrect decision, however, and to begin a legitimate and unbiased investigation. In closing, students have rights, parents have rights. Things got so bad here in this district, but the rot needs to come to an end. Each time I look for a reasonable explanation for some of this stuff, I find more filth. And I have to question, is this why the old board's votes were always unanimous, because everything had been decided in advance? I do feel like it's my obligation as a taxpayer to this district to report all 5 members of the old board to the Oregon Government Ethics Committee for what I believe are public meeting law violations, and I assume the OGEC will be looking for any other secret committees set up by the old board. Thank you.
Madam Chair, since Ms. Haynes has chosen to say that that's certainly a version of what happened after a very long process, I would also say that the previous board was reacting and attempting to run through that last pledge to Ms. Haynes to do as part of that proceeding. So I'm a little surprised to have us be upset about it now. The committee did exist, discussed at every single meeting, so there's nothing particularly secretive about it. And I think there's a lot of emotion behind what was just presented, obviously. It was very personal at the time, but there's a lot more that the board should hear before the board makes any immediate decisions on that.
Okay. I guess I'll look for further discussion with you, Dr. Yucca, and possibly you, Scott, with moving forward. We'll move on to the approval of the consent agenda.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
I got a couple corrections. Minor. There was Steve Cooper and made a motion. Somewhere in there, it was the public comment under, let me look for it here. Page 2 of 6 on the 11th, November 13th. Shoot, where did it go? I wrote it down too. Either way, it says in there Steve Cooper. I just can't find it. I can come back to that one. And then on the 11/16, the special meeting board update, there's, correct me if I'm wrong, but there's a, where's that one? In the body there, it says legal counsel, this is of a professional investigator, is that a legal service? It's so more sounds like counsel, other than it's just obtained the services of a professional investigator.
Yeah, that would probably be a more accurate statement.
That was, again, that was the only two things I had to clarify. With that, I second.
I don't. Did Tim? Okay.
I can follow up with her on,
I was trying to figure out paper-wise, but
I wrote it down and now I can't do the thing.
that's okay. I wasn't at the November 16th, so. Yeah, he said he'd follow up with her, so.